Hey, everybody, welcome back to Films and Fermentation. This is episode 92. Get a clue. That's right, we are Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
I remembered who I was this time. We're three friends who like to talk shit about movies while getting shit faced. In this episode, we revisit the recasting couch and provide our updated cast for the 1985 classic Clue. It was announced recently that Ryan Reynolds is producing a remake of his own, so we figured we'd take a shot at recasting it ourselves and hope that he takes our advice.
I think the fact that he's making his own is just a red herring.
Communism is the red herring. One of the teacher that shares my office with me was teaching some vocab words the other day to the kids, and she was talking about red herring and what that means. And I walked into the room and I went, "Communism is a red herring." And nobody, I knew the kids weren't going to get the joke, but she didn't get the joke, and I figured she would have got it. She's an older teacher. I would have thought she would have saw Clue.
Older? How older? Our age older or younger than our age older?
Like a little bit older than us, like 50s.
Well, no, then she should have got it. Yeah.
Yeah, she should have got it. Yeah.
Oh, well. Anyway, don't forget to drop us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com. Give us some drink suggestions, show ideas, movie suggestions, whatever you feel like. Or just reach out and say hi. Or you can visit linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our social media and podcast links. If anybody tried to go to our merchandise link recently, it was the wrong link. I fixed it. You can now buy our shit. This episode is brought to you by Newsly.
Newsly is an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It picks up the most trending articles on the web on topics you choose at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time ever, the entire web becomes listenable, all in one place. Follow any topic from sports, tech, business, science, even Bitcoin. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud. And they have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 80 countries. Our podcast is there too. Download and use Newsly for free now from www.newsly.me or from the link in the description, and use the promo code ANDFERMENT to receive a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening.
Newsly.
Got me. So what are we drinking tonight, gentlemen?
Well, sir, I took my drink straight from the movie itself.
Okay.
When they go
Brandy?
back into they go back into the study, and Colonel Mustard goes, "Does anybody want a whiskey?" And starts pouring the whiskey all over the glasses and the table. So I'm drinking some whiskey.
Just whiskey
Out of
straight?
mine.
Not out of your Eagles mug, your Eagles glass. Fly,
Got
fly.
you. Fly, Eagles, fly.
That's a good one. Yeah, I was looking at theme drinks, and they were really complicated. Some of the theme
They
drinks,
were.
and I'm like, I'm not looking to doing that. And I was like, what could I could do brandy or wine or whatever, because I know that shit that they drink in the movie. But I went a different route with it. I did a theme thing, but I did like a different type of theme. Clue is one of my comfort films. You know, I can watch it whenever I want, all the time. I've watched it a million times. If I just need something playing in the background while I'm working, I could put that on. Or if I just want to watch something I don't have to think about too much. So I said, I'm just going to go with a comfort drink then. So I'm just drinking one of my go-to drinks, which is ginger ale with gin. Gin and ginger.
Nice.
Gin and gin. Well, gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to some of the cast members I have with me today. I have Professor Plum. Okay.
Black cherry.
White Claw.
I brought Mr. Green. And you may say watermelon.
Watermelon?
Green, but I'm going by the
cap color.
cap. I have my Miss Peacock.
Okay.
Passion
Read
fruit.
that one. No
Passion fruit. And I have my Miss Scarlet.
Jesus, you got 4 White Claws over there?
Yes, I do.
Are you going to drink all 4 White Claws during the show?
Yes, I will.
Do you have to work tomorrow?
Yes, I do. But it's parent-teacher conferences, so, you know.
Well,
So
that's
This
why
might help.
he gives a shit.
he doesn't want to be sober for tomorrow. Then
Don't matter to me. I'm off tomorrow. I'm
Look,
just gonna sleep
They're
late.
only
and then-
100 calories. They're only 5%. They're only 2 grams of carbs. How much can they hit you?
Not much.
as he
Unless you're a
falls off
90-pound
the
woman.
chair after his first one.
I don't know if I've ever had a White Claw, to be honest with you. They're just in my house. Alcohol just kind of finds its way into my house. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
foo-foo, like,
Eh.
you know, that's the lady drink at the barbecues usually.
God, my
That could
barbecue.
explain where it came from.
That's why if you drank all 4 of them during the show, I wouldn't be surprised. It's like drinking carbonated water. No flavor. Like a hit water.
They were promoted pretty heavily. People were posting pictures and everything with them like years,
They're the
like
new
a year or
Zima.
so ago.
Yeah, it's this generation Zima, like Mike said.
Yeah. Well,
No, it's funny. I haven't watched it yet. I watched a little clip of that 90s show.
yes, I watched one
And-
episode. We weren't
And
thrilled.
and then the clip that I saw, Eric is sitting at the table with Donna and he's drinking a Zima. I'm like, the 90s. Michael, do you have any history for us this evening?
This day in film history. This day in film history in 1986, Pixar Animation Studio, which brought you Toy Story and The Incredibles, headed by Edwin Catmull and Alevi Ray Smith, is spun off from Lucasfilms Ltd. as an independent film production company with the backing of Steve Jobs. Then later on, both of them were bought by Disney.
Exactly. I was going to say, yeah, it's. You always think Pixar, you just think Disney automatically, but you don't realize like they were actually a company on their own for a while.
Well, they didn't make anything huge until
No,
we teamed up with Disney.
I mean they didn't really have any money. They were only backed by Apple.
Yeah, I know.
Did I tell you? I told you, Mike, my Apple story with the kid at school.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Our principal does a trivia question on Tuesdays when she does the announcements. And I have a little 3rd grader who comes to my room in the morning for tutoring, and she does the announcements over the speaker, and she says, "What is Apple Computers' full name?" There actually is a full name for Apple Computers. If you can tell me what the full name is, you win a little prize. So he's sitting at his desk, this kid, and he's trying to figure it out. And I go, "It's Apple what?" And he's like, "I don't know." And I said, "What the computer on my desk? What's that called?" And he goes, "That's an Apple Mac." I said, "That's right." I said, "Mac is short for something. What is Mac short for?" And he's sitting there, he's going, "Mac, McDonald." He's like, all these different Macs. And I said, "I'll give you a hint. It's a type of apple." And he went, "Oh, Granny Smith." I said, "Yeah, the Granny Smith Apple Mac." And then I said, "No, you're wrong. It's Honeycrisp."
I think that should have been something Apple considered, was doing a whole series of computers with different. There's the Apple Mac, there's the Apple Red Delicious, the Apple.
Well, do you remember how they remember when we used to be able to buy the Mac, the big monitor Macs, and they used to have the different colors on the back?
Yeah.
That's what they could have did. You could have branded the colors.
Yeah, what was it? The Apple II or Apple IIe and stuff like that. Yeah.
You know how Google, all their operating systems are associated with candy? Kit Kat and whatnot. Each operating system Apple produced could have been a different kind of apple.
Yeah, right now their operating systems are names of like landmarks and stuff. So like this, the latest update is called Big Sur.
Yeah.
Mike, what's your alcohol history for us this evening?
We'll talk about some beer history for you boys. Persimmons, a great source of fermentable sugar when ripe, were once used in North America to make a type of wine. In 1773, Finnish naturalist Pierre Kalm wrote that this beverage was reckoned to be much preferable to other beer. In China and Japan, persimmons have historically been harvested in fall and fermented into wine. In South Korea, persimmon wine is a regional specialty produced near the city of Daegao.
Go for it. You should did so well with the Italian name last week. Give me your Korean now.
City of Daegao.
Gal.
Daegu.
Double.
Sounds good.
The goal. The goal.
It proved me wrong.
Google.
Go ahead. Come on, prove me wrong.
I had to see the
Roll.
word. Was that your fact? Yeah. Hold on. Let me see. Daegu.
Dugu.
That's one letter away from being racist.
Duku.
There you go.
There you go.
Bye, Adrian.
Yeah, the persimmon thing. Like I've heard that with the wine tastings we've gone to every now and then. They mention that. Probably hear it a few times this weekend when we're on our chocolate and wine tasting tour in the Finger Lakes.
Ooh.
Notes from the last show. As always, I got a nice little synopsis from Glip. Our last show, of course, was the black and white movies. We picked our 5 favorite black and white films. And this is what Glip had to say about it. The discussion focused on controversial movie outfits, Yukon beaver eaters, amazing pieces of cinema, practical effects of color cinematography, original production designs for Star Wars, and the closing sequences of The Wizard.
The Wizard?
Other than the Yukon beaver eaters, I don't think I remember any of this shit.
No.
Well, we talked about the design concepts for Star Wars was C3PO.
C3PO with Metropolis, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the movie outfits was that's the suggestion you had for an upcoming episode. The controversial outfits or something like that.
No. Oh, no, maybe.
Yeah, because we were talking about
amazing piece of cinematography, cinema. I think you said that 4 different times.
Yeah, it's like my go-to description for movies I like. Amazing piece of cinema. The color cinematography thing. I think that had to do with that clip I showed you of the transition effect from that old film. The one that's got me is closing sequences of The Wizard. I don't know. Is that referring to when I talked about The Wizard of Oz? And I said that the bonus last week was the opening and closing of Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Yeah. That's probably what that is. So tonight's theme came from the fact that we read recently that Ryan Reynolds is remaking his own version of Clue. And I said that if you're going to remake Clue, there are 5 things, at least in my opinion, that you have to do to make sure that it's a successful film. 1, it has to stay fast paced. One of the things that's fun about Clue is like how frenetic it is and how how much they pack into what is only like an hour and a half movie. Quick jokes, quick the little asides that you don't catch it the first time around, that sort of stuff. And that being said, keep the runtime under 2 hours. I hate how like movies anymore feel the need to push the 3-hour limit. Like not everything needs to be over 2 hours long. You don't always need a lot of backstory. I hope they don't go into like backstory for the characters. That'll ruin everything.
You're not supposed to know the backstory of the characters.
Yeah, like you're not supposed to know who it is, who they are. So keep the runtime down and keep it in the 1950s because that's a very important part of the plot. That's how you get the whole like communism is a red herring thing and how Mr. Body was blackmailing them because they were considered un-American for some of the things that they were doing.
Blacklisted.
They were blacklisted, and it makes more sense in the 50s too, because then you make it in modern time, and then you got cell phones involved, and
Mr. Green can't be Mr. Green.
Mr. Green can't be Mr. Green. Yeah, it's like it's weird. So like, keep it in the 50s. Make sure you have the best actor possible playing Wadsworth. He is the center of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't have a good actor in that position. Like, I hope Ryan Reynolds isn't planning on playing that himself.
There has been rumors of that.
I'd like to see him be Mr. Body. Because then he can kind of come and go, and it will be like a fun little cameo. and he's the producer of the film, so he's already got a major role in it. And don't worry about pleasing everyone with the casting. Don't I know the trend now is to try to be as diverse as possible and try to please every audience member you can. But I don't think it's important here to do that. What's important is to make sure you have the right actors for the right roles,
Exactly.
regardless of
Agreed.
race or gender or whatnot.
And could I add something to your,
Yeah, go
musts,
for
or
it.
at least to keep into consideration? One of the best parts I felt about Clue, and I know that this only came out after it was released on video, was the alternate endings. The
Oh
different
yeah.
solutions. And in this day and age, or with the way movies are done, you could absolutely do it that way. You could even, hell, if you released it in a certain way. They have the interactive movies now. They did it with Black Mirror. They've done it with a
Mhm.
couple different things where you could follow a different path and see who was the murderer in which way and what was the explanation.
I'm glad you brought that up because I actually meant to put that on there and I forgot. Yeah, I would like to see them keep the. So here's what you can do if you want to like update it a little bit as far as remakes go. You could have the multiple endings, but they don't have to be the same solution as the original film.
Right.
True.
You have your multiple endings with different characters being the guilty party, or like you said, like I don't know if it's going to be a theater release or if it's going to be like streaming release. If it's a streaming release, like if it's right to Netflix, they can do that. They can do that choose your own adventure thing like they did with Bandersnatch
Yeah.
and a few of the other there's a couple other movies they did that with too. And
I still think you need the ending where Mr. Green says, "I'm going home to sleep with my wife."
my wife, yeah.
Gotta keep that
little twist about his character, yeah. But yeah, I think that the multiple ending things need to stay in, and I like the idea of kind of doing like a choose your own adventure sort of thing. That'd be
Yeah.
pretty cool. If they could do that.
one.
So I have another hypothetical question for us this evening. I actually came up with this hypothetical myself.
Hmm.
The hypothetical question this evening is brought to you by Dubby. Dubby is an all natural energy drink. Find out more about it at dubby.gg, where you can use the promo code FilmsFerment to get 10% off your order. Dubby, be better. So our
Dummy!
.gg. So our hypothetical question is: I was listening to another podcast. I'm not going to say their name because they're a really big podcast and they don't need my help advertising. But they were talking about what was I listening to they were talking about the movie Train Spotting
Hmm.
and how like frightening it was the first time they saw it, certain scenes in it, and then they were comparing it to other movies that kind of like scared them the first time they saw it. And I was like, well, that'd be a good little hypothetical question for this evening. What is the scariest movie you've seen that isn't a horror movie? Because there's definitely movies out there that are pretty frightening without having to be a slasher flick or a thriller or something like that. So
Hmm.
I had posted this on Twitter and I got a few responses. DJ Scoob at the Undiscovered Entrepreneur wrote, he says, "Does Ghostbusters count? The scene with the librarian ghost was my first jump scare I ever remember growing up. Scared the shit out of me."
That's a pretty good one. Yeah.
That's a
That's a
pretty
good
good one.
one.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a
if you're
good one.
talking about just like particular scares within a film, I guess I was thinking more along the lines of like an actual like full movie that was kind of scary. The next one on here we have is at Ozols_Aldis. This is somebody who follows us on Twitter. They're not a part of that independent group that we belong to. But
Thanks. We
he
have a
he gave
listener.
me he gave me a link to a YouTube video. When I went to it, it was a link for one of those robots with its own intelligence created in Japan, and that does like human emotions and dances on its own and all this other kind of stuff. So the first thing that scared him that wasn't a horror film was an actual real film about robots being developed in Japan.
Short Circuit.
Yeah, short circuit.
A Skynet
Space
was made.
Space Castle, our logo creators and followers of the show, suggested a movie called Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. I don't really know much about this film. I had to look it up to find out about it. It's a movie starring Elizabeth Olsen and Sarah Paulson. And Elizabeth Olsen plays a woman who escapes from a cult and the aftermath of her life and recovering from the abuse that she suffered while in the cult. And they said that cult stuff always freaks them off. It freaks them out. So I mean, I never seen this film before. I have to like check it out and see how frightening it could possibly be. I'm sure it probably is, in some way. And then my wife suggested Howard the Duck, because when she was a kid, and when Howard the Duck first came out, the end when the professor turns into the big
The monster, yeah.
monster alien creature, she said it freaked the shit out of her and she couldn't
Yeah.
watch it
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. That makes sense.
I said that reminded me of Pee-wee's Big Adventure when Large Marge turns into the twisted mess at the end of her scene. It freaked me out as a kid. But Mike, you said you had a few choices for this. What are some of your ideas?
Well, the first couple that came to my mind was like the Never-Ending Story.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's a freaky movie when you're a kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
When you're a kid. The Return to Oz.
Yeah.
fucking hell yeah. Everything
Yeah.
about that movie's fucking
The woman with the
scary.
severed heads and replacing her heads.
The wheelie
Labyrinth.
dudes.
Mm-hmm. Labyrinth, I get that.
I didn't think Labyrinth was as scary when I was a kid as something like Never-Ending Story was. I think Labyrinth just because it was the Muppets.
Yeah, but I felt that way about Dark Crystal too.
Dark Crystal, even though that was also Jim Henson, like that was, that was frightening.
Yeah.
That scene where
the last one.
Go ahead, Mike.
The last one though, was it was only a scene in the movie, but that would be Raiders. The last scene
where
the melting faces.
Yeah.
You see, I would have said the same thing with Temple of Doom with the heart.
Yeah, because when we were kids,
I was much older then.
Well, we were all kids when those movies came out, especially Lost Ark. So like that would freak you out as a kid,
Yeah.
But I was gonna say with like Dark Crystal, the scene where they suck the life out of that one little puppet.
Yeah.
That always freaked the shit out of me. Kev, do you have a film for this or?
I do actually, and I mean I don't know what you guys would classify it as. It scared me as a kid, and that was Gremlins. Is that a horror movie? That's not really a horror movie.
I don't know if you consider it a horror movie.
Christmas movie, damn it!
I consider it sort of like a kid's Christmas, like
horror movie,
young adult horror, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
You know what the scariest thing in that movie was Phoebe Cates' fucking monologue about her dad dying in a chimney.
I don't know. Isn't that the one where one of the gremlins gets put into a blender and she turns it on and
That's the mom, Billy's mom in the kitchen,
right? In the Mogwai, even when he gets wet and you see the stuff growing on its back and then making cocoons and
it's definitely the 80s. Definitely was a different time.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
So I thought of a few. If you're talking about like 80s, quote unquote kids movies that were kind of fucking frightening. You have The Secret of Nim.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was dark.
What was the other one? Watership Down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
With the shit out of me with the rabbits. And then what was the Mike? What was the Disney one? Was it the Black Cauldron?
The Black Cauldron.
Black Cauldron. That was a pretty creepy one.
Yeah.
Now I was
and
also
the
trying
Rescuers.
to think. And the Rescuers. I was kind of thinking along the lines of like other films too that were kind of scary because of how real they were.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first films I remember like watching was a 90s film that scared the shit out of me watching it. It was a movie called Kids.
Oh yeah, Rosario Dawson and
it's a movie about teenagers living in New York in the 1990s, but they're all like strung out on drugs and some have AIDS and one's raping another girl and it's all like just like these kids just like running amok without any like supervision or rules or anything. And I remember watching it going, man, this is one of the most realistic films I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking scared the shit out of me and I still became a teacher. That's the movie I thought of at first when I was thinking of this list.
How about Lean on Me with Joe Brown?
You used to call me Mr. Brown, now you call me Batman. Tonight's main segment, Recasting Clue, is brought to you by the following podcast friends. Please bear with us as we take a short break to play you these messages from the Fandalorians and All Hallows Eve.
Hello, Spooklings.
I'm Jason,
And I'm Kathy.
and we're the hosts of the weekly podcast, All Hallows Eve Podcast.
We are a husband and wife duo with a passion for anything spooky, macabre, and true crime, sprinkled with our own twist of comedy.
We explore topics such as the history of Halloween, the Butcher of Plainfield, Hocus Pocus 2, urban legends, superstitions, and more.
So come join us as we go down the rabbit hole that is All Hallows Eve Podcast.
Listen and follow us at allhallowsevepodcast.com or your favorite podcast provider.
Stay spooky, my friends.
Hello, everybody. Let me ask you a question. When you were a kid, did you ever wonder what teachers talked about in the teacher's lounge?
You probably didn't miss much. It's usually boring stuff like grading papers, lesson planning, and then figuring out the new train schedule.
Train schedule?
Well, I teach in the city.
But sometimes, at one of the not-so-cool tables in the back of the teacher's lounge, you might find us, the Fandalorians, teachers by day, nerds by night.
My name is Mr. Richardson, and by day, Mr. McDonald, Mr. G, and I teach and inspire America's youth.
But by night, we debate, discuss, and argue about all things in the pop culture universe on our podcast.
We discuss all the biggest pop culture topics in the world, like Ozark, Stranger Things, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, Marvel, Star Wars, Top Gun Maverick, The Old Man, Bridgerton, you name it, we'll probably discuss it.
You guys watch Bridgerton?
Yo, season 1 of Bridgerton was awesome. You don't know what you're missing. Since we are teachers, you will always get a ton of background information about our topics and original teacher-themed segments, like our pop culture morning announcements, building meetings, and post-observation reviews of shows and movies. Oh, and arguing. You'll get lots of disagreements and arguing, like way more than I'm comfortable with.
You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Just search for The Fandalorians, Teachers by Day, Nerds by Night.
Then join us every Monday as we look into the current state of fandom and pop culture.
Hey, look, the bell's about to ring. We need to head to the buses. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Well, I mean, they're not going to see us because this is a podcast.
I know.
But they can't even see us when you think about it, so they won't see us either.
Oh my God, you know what I meant. It wasn't literal. Just ring the bell. Ring the bell.
The Fandalorians, Teachers by Day, Nerds by Night. I hope you listen and subscribe to us soon.
I hate you guys.
All Hallows Eve also sent us a message on Twitter this week, said about the black and white episode that we did. Great episode at Films Ferment. Keep up the awesome work. Everyone check out episode 91 right there in black and white. You can listen to it on Good Pods, where you can also follow us to see our other favorites. Always have something nice to say about us, those guys.
Yeah,
Their names like Jason.
Those guys are swell.
Kathy.
Yes.
We also had another message recently too, which is weird. On a podcast platform called Potter. It's one of the smaller podcast platforms out there. I actually forgot that we had our show on that, so I got an email the other day from them saying that you have a comment on your show. So I went in there and we have a comment from a listener named Starchild1232 who gave us 5 stars for the show itself, not just for a singular episode, and wrote, "This podcast is awesome. I love the banter, the beer, and the topics. Keep up the awesome work, guys."
Because that wasn't the
So we have at least one listener on a very, very small podcast platform. So tonight's main segment is Recasting Clue, the classic comedy film from 1985. And so,
rattle and roll. You gotta
shake, rattle and roll.
Wasn't that the song?
Yeah, it was Shake, Rattle, Roll was the song they play in the final credits.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the song they play? They have one song playing when they're trying to dupe the cop and hide the dead bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my God, why can't I think of the song now?
I just watched it the other night too.
Yeah, I know. I just watched it last night. I watched it again last night because I wanted to be like fresh for it. I can't remember it now. It'll come to me at some point. So we decided that when it comes to recasting, we are going to cast only the main characters as we saw them, which are the characters named after the colors. Wadsworth, Mr. Body, and Yvette.
Yeah, that.
We're not doing the cook. We're not doing the messenger girl. We're not doing the cop. We're not doing
Motorist.
the motorist who stops to use the phone. Just these characters here. So Mr. Body, Wadsworth, Yvette, which make up the household staff, and then the color characters: Mr. Green, Miss White, Mrs. Peacock, Miss Scarlet, Professor Plum, and Colonel Mustard.
What color was Miss Peacock on the game? Was she blue?
Yes.
Something like
She
that.
was
Yeah,
blue, right? Okay.
yeah, it's weird because like all the characters in the movie have a color scheme to their outfit that matches the game,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't remember hers. I think she was blue.
Well, Miss White was wearing black.
And she does in the game too.
Right.
And then Miss Scarlet has the red hair and the green dress.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Plum
He
has
was wearing
the
a
jacket
purple
that's sort of
smoking jacket.
plum color.
Right.
Mr. Green has the green jacket. Colonel Mustard has the yellowish
Yellow tie.
beige outfit. Yeah. So I mean, they all had something kind of matching it, but I don't remember hers.
I think she had
I just remember like
feather in her hat.
it's the peacock feather in her hat. Yeah. So these are the characters we went with. So who should we start with? Should we just go right to Wadsworth?
You got to. You got to start with him.
Because Wadsworth is, as we said, the most important character in the
Mm-hmm.
movie.
If you screw that up, the movie's done.
Okay, so who wants to go first?
I go. I will. I do it.
Go for it, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
I picked Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, that would work. Yeah.
That's a good one. I had him in mind at one point, and Katie told me she didn't like that pick. So I took him off, and I came up with somebody else.
You got to have somebody that has that, straight enough to play the butler part, but has the comedy chops to keep things going.
Okay.
He gets both. He's got that proper look.
Yeah, he does have a proper look. Yeah.
And he could do the mix of like comedy and action and all that stuff with like Doctor Strange and all that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a really good choice. I like that one. That's it's one that I had thought of, but then I got kiboshed by my wife. Kev, who do you have for yours?
Okay. So it's a little bit left, but not too far left. And I think he could pull it off. Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh, you know what? All right, you finish and I'll tell you what I was going to say.
I mean, I know we see Borat, we've seen him, the scruffy, but I know he's got the ability to pull it off where it's the comic, but the straight-faced comic relief where he's doing some antics, Yeah.
He's another one that I had thought of at first because I had actually saw his name suggested on another website for this. And I thought, you know what? People don't know, like, he actually is not a bad actor. Like, if you watch Trial of Chicago 7, like, he's phenomenal in that. He's not just Borat. He did, and he was in Les Miserables.
Mr. Green's been killed, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Green is done.
Mr. Green in the study with...
with Mike. Yeah.
So he's one I thought of too. I thought of Sacha Baron Cohen, and then at last I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go with one that I feel like really fits the role. Could do comedy, could do drama, could do the physical comedy, especially. Is a good actor, can do different accents, and could probably bring a little something personal to the role too. So I went with Simon Pegg.
Oh, that's good. I was thinking him. But I thought, no.
I had him in mind for some of the roles. I don't think
I actually did a whole slideshow with pictures of all the actors that I chose. I was going to share it, but I'm like, no, it's all right. I don't have to waste time doing that. People know who these actors are; they can look them up. So yeah, that was my Wadsworth, and I figured that's the reason why I figured he's somebody who can kind of handle all the little like nuances of that character.
Yeah.
And from watching things like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, he could do like the physical comedy too.
Oh yeah.
So that brings
Run,
us
Fat Boy,
to
Run.
or Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah.
So I say, what should we go to next, Mr. Body?
No. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or do you want to do Yvette?
Let's do Yvette next.
Yvette.
let's do Yvette next. We'll do one guy, one girl. So let's do Yvette
All right.
next.
So since Mike started, we'll follow a rotation. I'll go first this time. You go first with the next one. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So I was torn on Yvette, and honestly, up until the moment where I logged on for the conversation, I had somebody else. But then I remembered watching this person on a talk show earlier today, and I really enjoy her roles that she's gotten, and she's an up and coming actress, I would say. I chose Darcy Carden for Yvette.
Oh, I love Darcy Carden.
Yeah,
she's in the Good Place.
She's in the Good Place. She's on.
She's on. She's in the new League of Their Own series.
League of Their Own. Yeah, she's been put into a couple things lately. What was the new one? Not Benny. Barry. Barry. She's on Barry.
Yeah, she's on Barry. She's been on Barry. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's really funny.
Yeah, she's funny.
Yeah.
She can pull it off. She's curvy, which kind of fits what Yvette needs to be. You know, she has that little thing that just, a little element of attraction, and and that's why I chose her. Now we'll cycle through, and I'll tell you who the alternate was moments before this whole thing went down.
I like your that pick though. I really do. I like that.
Thank you.
I chose so my wife chose Margot Robbie for this role, and I was like, no, Margot Robbie is too prominent an actress for this.
Yeah.
I think she would have to be one of the other characters in the cast. Then again, the actress I chose is probably on the verge of being too prominent for this, but I still think I would like to see her in a French maid costume. Can anybody guess?
Ana de Armas?
Ana de Armas is who I chose for this role. Ana de Armas. My wife was like, "You gonna choose her for everything?" I was like, "Pretty much." So I think because she already kind of has.
She comes with her own accent.
She comes with her own accent. It doesn't have to be the French accent. It could be the Spanish accent that she already has. She is a good actress. She's done some comedy. She's done a murder mystery already with Knives Out.
Yeah.
And she is hot. Mike, who do you got?
I went with somebody that was a little more bustier than yours.
I like when Mike starts with the word gentleman before he explains these things, because he's like a political pundit. Gentlemen, my choice has big boobages.
Big boobages.
Large tracts of land.
And I would go with Kate Upton.
I was going to say Scarlett Johansson. Kate Upton. That's interesting.
Kate Upton, I could see it for the physical. I'm just don't know her. The only thing I know her of as an actress was that one that she did with, I want to say Charlize Theron, or maybe it's not her, but it's like the three women who all had the same guy. She's the mistress.
Yeah, it was her. Cameron Diaz, I think, was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Jennifer Aniston? Maybe I know it was. It was like two pretty big actresses and her.
Right, and that was the only thing I knew her from. So
she's just known for being her
busty.
Busty.
She would fill out the costume definitely. And you don't have to be good at the French accent because it's fake anyway.
It is fake, yeah.
Because the actress who played her in Clue was pretending to be French. So
yeah, she dropped the accent right before she got killed.
Yeah. So that's a cool one. I like that.
My originals. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump.
Go for it.
I was just going to say right before, and Megan helped me pick this one out, and I was like, oh yeah, and this is going to drive Leo up the wall. Florence Pugh.
Yeah. That would have been a good one too. Yeah,
you'd be a good one too. Again, like too prominent right now.
You think?
Once you get that role in the MCU, you're above the vet.
That's why mine is great. She's not that prominent.
But when you think of the back and forth banter in Hawkeye, you think of how she was with Black Widow. She's definitely got the little comedic chops going on.
Keep in mind, I chose Ana de Armas for this, so it's not like I didn't go outside the box on mine.
Right. But I think
I would like that. I think Florence Pugh would be fun in that role.
Mm-hmm. But I think Darcy Carden fits better.
No, she does, because Darcy Carden definitely has the comedic. And she's gone blonde on The Good Place, so she could do blonde in this too.
Yeah.
when she was evil Janet. So I guess since we did Yvette, we should go to Mr. Body at this point then, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Lee.
Okay. Does that mean I'm starting?
Your
You
start.
start, then Mike, then me.
My wife suggested Chris Pratt, and I thought, maybe,
Mhm.
but I like this guy better because I think he's prominent enough to be like, oh, look who's playing this role, but not above doing a little bit of a cameo.
Mhm.
Plus, he can be intimidating as well as charming. So I went with Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian.
Ooh,
You know, that was
that's
on my
good.
list for that part. He was on my list for that part.
hmm
But I didn't
So
go
who did
there.
you end up?
He's got the debonair, but he's also, you know.
And he could be menacing. He's like, think of the what was it, the Black Viper that he played on Game of
Yeah,
Thrones?
on Game of Thrones.
Go ahead, Mike. Who did
Well,
you go with instead?
I went with somebody that could, actually, I went with my wife's choice. But I wanted somebody that was like gangster like, because that's how Mr. Body's played. And we went with Jay Hernandez. He's an actor that is in he plays Magnum PI right now. The new
Okay. Okay.
He was Diablo in the Suicide Squad film.
Yes.
The first Suicide
Oh,
Squad.
right.
The terrible one.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't recognize him, but Diablo had all the
He had all
facial
tattoos
tattoos.
and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
That's an interesting one because it's not somebody like super well known.
Right.
Mhm.
It's well known enough. Because you don't
Well
need
known
somebody,
enough.
you don't need somebody
Yeah,
really well known for Mr. Body. Unless you
it's
want
a
somebody
cameo.
to do
It's a cameo role.
Yeah.
It's a cameo role. I chose Pascal because I thought it'd be cool just to see him in that quick little cameo role.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good one because, like you said, it's not somebody who's like super prominent, but kind of like an up and comer.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that like, years down the line, if he's like super famous, you can always go back to like, oh, you remember when he was in Clue? So who did you got, Kev?
Gentlemen, I have to say, listen to both. You have really good ones. I have to say that I won this one, though.
Okay.
I won this one.
Okay.
You won
ready?
this one?
I won it. Sean Bean. To me, Sean Bean.
And of course he dies.
It has to be Sean Bean.
He must die right and die twice.
I'm ringing the bell. We're done. Good night, everybody.
I was thinking, and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe him. And I did think of Pedro Pascal.
See you next week for episode 93.
Man, I was like, this has to be the person. I know it's
He
the
dies
big
twice in the
name, it's a
movie.
cameo role.
Yeah,
but-
he dies twice. No, that is perfect. That is perfect. I love it. He can be suave, he can be menacing, and he dies twice. It's perfect. Oh, that's awesome. That's a good one. I was really proud of my Pedro Pascal until I heard that one.
I thought I was going with mine.
That's awesome. Since you won that round, Kev, you pick the next character. We do.
All right. Okay. Let's go. We'll do boy, girl. So, Colonel Mustard.
No, if we're doing boy, girl, then you should pick a girl.
Yeah, because we just
Colonel
did Mr.
Mustard.
Body.
We just did Mr. Body.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was starting now, boy, girl. But okay.
Well, if you want to do Colonel Mustard, we do Colonel Mustard.
Okay.
Let's do Colonel Mustard. So, Michael, you start this one.
Mike, you start this one.
Colonel Mustard was my most difficult pick. Took me. He was my last one and my most difficult. And I think I came up with the perfect guy.
Okay.
Giancarlo Esposito. You guys know him.
You went with
Esposito.
he plays he was Gus Fring in Breaking Bad.
Oh.
And he's the guy with the dark saber in Mandalorian.
Yes. I'm sorry. It took me a minute to register.
He also was the magic mirror in Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
He's the leader of Vought Industries in The Boys.
Yeah.
He plays villains.
Yeah.
But he has that military feel. And he's a comedian.
Yeah, but
comedic.
Like Colonel Mustard's like a bumbling fool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Esposito could play bumbling fool or not.
I'd like to see him try. I'd
an
like to
interesting
see him do
choice,
a
yeah.
little comedy.
Well, see,
You know,
I've
I'm
seen
trying to think if he's got any comedic
if you
chops.
if you guys watch if you had watched Once Upon a Time, he's the mirror, and he is funny as shit.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I've seen him in some of like his roles when he was younger that were a lot different from what he plays now.
Yeah,
It's like only like in this twilight part of his career where he's been playing a lot of villains, but he was like good guys a lot early in his career. He has a very small role in Usual Suspects. He's one of the detectives at the police department where they're interviewing Verbal Kint.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
I forgot
yeah,
about that.
that'd be
small
interesting.
role,
That'd be an interesting one to see. So Kev, then go to you next. Then who do you have?
I went with Taika Waititi. I just think that he could pull off a very bumbling, comedic sergeant at some point. I go to Jojo Rabbit with this, where he played Hitler. Yes, he did. But it was still a comedic military position.
I don't
And
know if he does. If he could do an American accent, though. Be curious to see if he can do that.
He might be able to. Wasn't he in Green Lantern as the
He was
friend?
the roommate, but I kind of put that movie out of my mind, so
I know everybody
barely
did,
remember
but he
that.
was he did have an American accent in that.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's where I went with.
This was a tough character. I had a hard time with this one.
it was a tough character.
I tried to pick somebody who was kind of. At first, I went with just like sort of like the shape of the character, and so I originally picked Nick Frost. But I was like, I already picked Simon Pegg for Wadsworth. I don't want to go too closely to the Shaun of the Dead route.
Mhm.
So then the second one I went with was John Lovitz because I thought he could play that sort of like pathetic, over the top loser character, but still be kind of the swarmy womanizer type thing that he is in the movie. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm all over though the new Brendan Fraser Renaissance, so I went with Brendan Fraser for Colonel Mustard.
Okay.
Because he can do comedic,
Yes,
he can do dramatic, he can be bumbling and fumbling.
Mhm.
He's a lot older now, so he can play this character who's older than than most of the other characters in the show, in the movie. So I thought, why not give it to the whale?
Sure.
Yeah, I can see it.
Brendan Fraser for Colonel. This was definitely the toughest character I think to do.
Yeah.
Out of all of them. So then we'll do a female character next then. So we're gonna go Scarlet, White, or Peacock.
Your call, man. You're
My
going.
call.
Yeah, you go first, so you pick.
Let's go with Mrs. Peacock.
Okay.
So it's you're picking first, right? Because
No,
Mike
I'm
went first
picking.
in the last one.
Oh, right. I'm picking first.
You're going first.
Yes. So with this one, this was my first name when I came up with my list with my recasting. I think she'd fit the role well. It's Melissa McCarthy.
Okay.
After Bridesmaids and seeing what she can do, I think she could really embody Mrs. Peacock really well, And I think she's got a little fight to her, which I think also would suit this new Mrs. Peacock. What was her name? Eileen
Brennan.
Right.
Yeah. I think she definitely has the comedic background.
Yes.
No, I like that's a good choice. I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa McCarthy, and she's kind of, I think, fits the design of the character a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this to me was probably the one I had the second hardest time with. It was Colonel Mustard and Miss Peacock. I originally went with I was originally going to go with Catherine Hahn, plays Agnes in WandaVision and all that, and I was like, no, she's a little too young for that role, I think. And then my wife suggested Kate Winslet, which I thought was an interesting one. I thought, I've never really seen her do comedy before, so I'd be interested to see her try to play that. But then I'm like, who is an actress who's a little older, but still fun to watch on screen, who could do funny but could also do dramatic, who could do over the top and who could play like a quirky character that you can kind of believe she's quirky. So I went with Emma Thompson.
Okay.
And I thought of like her role as Professor Trelawney in Hogwarts as
Right.
kind of like the practice run for playing Mrs. Peacock.
I can see it.
Yeah, no, I can get that. She has done comedy, so.
Mm-hmm. And I also think like she doesn't seem like she's shy about kind of playing the silly role.
Mm-mm.
So Michael, what do you have?
I went the same basis as you did, Lee. I went with an older actress
Mm-hmm.
that had some comedy, not a lot of comedy, but some of the roles she's done before. When I looked at her, I went, yeah, she looks like Mrs. Peacock as well. I went with Kate Mulgrew,
So you went with Captain Janeway.
Captain Janeway. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that fits because I think she kind of looks a little bit like Eileen Brennan at this point in her life.
she does. Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's had some comedy with her television stuff. Some
Mhm.
comedy there.
Mm-hmm.
And she's an older actress. I think she can, and she has that fight to her too. She was saying earlier.
And you could even play like Mrs. Peacock kind of plays it straight in a way that makes her funny.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not like she's serious but kind of silly at the same time. So I think like Kate Mulgrew might be able to fill that role out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go to another male character then. We
Mhm.
got Green, Plum. Oh, that's it. Mr. Green or Professor Plum. What should we go with?
Let's go with Plum.
The Professor Plum.
Professor
So
Plum.
who's starting this one? Me?
You are.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know I had somebody else before the name that I ended up going with. I don't remember who the hell it was now at this point. Because I can only remember the one I decided to go with instead, and that's Bill Hader. So Bill Hader has made his bones on Saturday Night Live. He plays Barry in the show Barry. He can play, over the top crazy characters. He's played the characters similar to kind of the Professor Plum character on SNL. So I thought he would be really good at this role that was made famous by Christopher Lloyd.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be like the modern day Christopher Lloyd. Michael, who do you got then?
So I went with another one who has huge comedy chops for this one. I went with King and Michael Keys.
Ooh.
That's funny. That's an interesting one.
Yeah. I like that one.
Because he can play straight, he can play goofy.
Mm-hmm.
To me, he's another, like you said, like Christopher Lloyd was. He can do it all.
No, I like that one.
Yeah.
He was not. I was thinking I'd like to see him in a role in this, but he didn't end up on my list. But that's good.
I was saying, like, thinking about what I said earlier about how, like, don't worry about diversifying the cast, just pick who's right for the part.
Mm-hmm.
And I still managed to diversify my cast a little bit, and you did too, Mike. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like Keenan Michael Kay.
I liked him. I wanted him in the cast, and I was going to hear. I was originally going to put him as Wadsworth.
Okay.
But
Adrian's like,
really interesting.
Adrian's like, you got, depends upon who, because I had him or Cumberbatch, and Adrian's like, if you go one way, the movie's going to go this way. If you have the other one, it's going to go a different direction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree, and I like him as the Plum character because he can kind of stand out without taking over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So that leaves you, Kev. Who do you have for Plum?
For Plum, I chose Zach Galifianakis.
Okay.
I went all comedy in on this. I just thought he would make for a funny professor.
He's another one I had in mind for Colonel Mustard too.
Okay.
Yeah, he was one of the other ones, but I think he'd be better with the Professor Plum character.
Yeah, I just thought, and I was thinking who he got matched up with when they went in teams. Wasn't it him and Miss Scarlet?
No,
it was him and Miss Peacock.
Him and Miss Peacock. Well, that would work even better.
That works even better because he was.
That works even better for my pair.
They get paired up, and he walks over and he goes, "Looks like it's you and me, honey bunch."
So him and
I
Melissa
remember.
McCarthy,
I originally had Brendan Fraser down as Professor Plum, and then changed my mind on it and made him Colonel Mustard, and then I went with Bill Hader. But I like that. These are all good choices. I like Keegan Michael Key because it brings some kind of different energy to it.
Yeah.
And then I like Zach Galifianakis for the same reason, brings a whole different energy to it. So then that leaves us with Miss Scarlet, Miss White, and Mr. Green. So we're gonna go to a female character now. So we want to do Miss White or Miss Scarlet? What are you thinking, Kev?
Go with Miss Scarlet.
All right. Who's starting this one off then?
That would be me.
You? Go for it.
So I actually had difficulty with this one too. This is my other most difficult one, and I went with Judy Greer.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because very different choice.
No, that is a different
She's
choice, but it works.
Not enough, but she can be sassy.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I thought that
That
was
is definitely not where I saw you going.
No, but I didn't even
And she
think
has
of her.
comedic chops.
Yeah,
She
that's
does.
a good one. I like
oh,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah, it was wow. I didn't see that one going there at all. Kev, who do you have?
Mine is kind of a left turn. Her comedic chops are limited, but she's still super attractive, filling the role of a mistress. You know, I went with Zoe Saldana.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, she's had small comedies in her, history, but I think she could really pull off the sass. Then she's got the attractiveness, and I think she could, play off really well.
I went with the sexy redhead. So I
Bates
originally
I was redheaded.
Huh?
I was a redhead.
I know. I originally went Jessica Chastain, and then I'm like, no, I don't know if I've seen her in comedy before, but I know I've seen this person do comedy as well as drama. She could be a sexy redhead. She's definitely voluptuous. She could fill out the dress, and she has the sass and all that. And
Ilsa Fisher.
no, it's kind of on the nose. Let's make Miss Scarlet Johansson.
Oh,
That's where I was going to go, weren't you?
Yeah. That's where I thought. That really is where I thought you were going to go. I thought you were going to Scarlett Johansson.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, just go on the nose with it. Scarlet playing Scarlet.
I can never argue JoJo. I can never.
No.
I forgot who my wife chose for that part. I know she had somebody different. Let's then. Okay, so that's the Scar. So all we have left then is Mr. Green and Miss White. And since we're going, boy girl, let's go to Mr. Green. And who's starting this one? Is that Kevin?
You are, sir.
I am. So Mr. Green is, of course, the character who pretends to be homosexual throughout the story. He's very bumbling and a lot of physical comedy. Pretends to be sort of clumsy and inept. And then you find out that he was a secret FBI agent all along, tracking Mr. Body and all these other guilty parties. And at the end, he's just going to go home and make love to his wife.
That's it.
And I said, I want to go with somebody who is definitely could be funny, definitely could do the physical comedy, can be dramatic if he needs to be, is a little bit on the younger side, but not too young. And I wanted to go, this is where I decided to go into my diversification of the cast. And so I went with Donald Glover.
Okay.
Oh, Donald Glover. Okay.
Donald Glover. Childish Gambino.
No, I thought it was Danny Glover. I was like, wait a second, young?
Yeah, Donald Glover. Hold on.
But not Danny Glover.
Not Danny Glover, Donald Glover.
Get
no relation.
This shit.
No relation.
I can see where
I can see Donald Glover.
Yeah. Here he is, Donald Glover.
Mm-hmm. No, I know who he is.
I even managed to find a picture where
he's Lando.
He's Lando. I even kind of found a picture where he kind of resembles Mr. Green.
He's a lot younger there than he was when he played Lando.
While I'm sharing my screen, I might as well do this. So yeah, Donald Glover's who I decided to go with for that.
Okay.
So Mike, who did you end up with?
Me? This was probably the easiest one of the bunch. I picked an actor that's a little bit older because I went with Neil Patrick Harris.
I can see that too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
I
can see
think it
that
would
too.
work out well. Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a really good one.
Yeah.
I think Neil Patrick Harris would actually be a really good Wadsworth too.
He could probably play every role that's there, even the female role.
He could even be Miss White.
He could even be Yvette.
I agree that I think this was the easiest one to cast. Even I went in like a totally different direction. I thought Donald Glover was one of the first names that popped in my head when I was thinking about this character. But I like Neil Patrick Harris is a good one. I like that one. He could definitely do the physical comedy as well as the straight man comedy and all that stuff. So Kev, who do you have then?
So again, I know we didn't need to diversify, but I wanted to. I wanted to, incorporate a lot of different comedians, and this is an up and comer, but the things I've seen him do, he's very funny. It's Kumail Nanjiani.
Kumail Nanjiani, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was Kingo in the Eternals.
Right.
He's a stand-up comedian.
Okay, I know.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
I think he would fill the role really nicely. The little subtle, way of just making people think he's one way and a little funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see him doing like the physical comedy. He can do the sort of like, is he an idiot or is he,
Yes.
And then the little reveal at the end that he's the guy after them all along and all that. I like Kumail Nanjiani too. He's a funny comedian. He's a really good stand-up.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good choice. So then that leaves us with Miss White.
Flames.
An iconic role. There you go.
I was on the first day. Breathing. Breath.
Breathe, breath.
I've been waiting for that.
It's a matter of life after death. Now that he's dead, I have a life. So, played by the incomparable Madeline Kahn.
Which made this the hardest of all.
This was a really, really tough one because it's like, how do you replace Madeline Kahn?
Yeah.
Who's just a fucking icon. So, Mike, are you going first then, or is it Kevin?
It's Kevin.
It's me.
So who do you have?
I went with Ali Wong, Dragon Lady.
Wow, talk about a diverse cast. That's an awesome choice.
Isn't that a great choice? I could see her being really,
if you think about like the characters she's played in like Crazy Rich Asians and Always Be My Maybe and all that, like she can play that sort of like was it like just calm, but there's like a menace to it.
Yes.
No, that's a cool choice, man. She is some of the dirtiest stand-up I've ever fucking heard, and she is hilarious.
Yeah.
As long as she's not pregnant, because she tends to be pregnant in all of her fucking specials. So it's like that's a cool one. I like that. That's a really good choice.
Thank you.
I really struggled with this one because I wanted somebody who was funny, but like I said with your choice with Ali Wong, who could do that sort of quiet menace as well. My wife had a really good choice for this one. She chose Kristen McKinnon from Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
She was in the all-female Ghostbusters film. She was the quirky one who made all the equipment and stuff. And I think she's a really funny actress. She could probably do a pretty good Madeline Kahn impression, I'm assuming, because she does a lot of impressions of different people. So I liked her. I thought she was a pretty good choice, but I had to go with my choice because I just really wanted to have her in my film. And so I went with Catherine Hahn. I was originally going to use her for Yvette, and I was like, no, I need her to be in a more prominent role. So I put her in as Miss White because she can definitely do the comedy. She can do the quirky behavior that Mrs. White has, and she's attractive in an odd way. So, and then that leaves Michael.
Okay. So, along with you, I wanted somebody that could do the role justice. Someone that could do, try do it justice for Madeline, but also someone that was kind of looked the part, a little paler look, because that role she was really pale. So I went with someone with
Tilda Swinton.
no. That has done some kooky comedy in her time. I'm going with Zooey Deschanel.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I think she kind of fits.
Yeah.
You know who else popped in my head just now? As you were giving your description, before you said Zooey Deschanel, I was thinking of what you were describing. And another one that popped in my head that could definitely play quirky in sort of a menacing way, Christina Ricci.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good call on that
I
one.
think she would have been a really good choice for Miss White as well.
Miss Scarlet's dead.
Oh,
Miss
no.
Scarlet is dead. That's 2 down. Colonel Mustard, it's your time, buddy.
Can we take 5 real quick, guys?
Yeah, well, we gotta think of the next episode anyway, so I'm gonna pause it.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody! Thank you for joining us this evening for episode 92. Get a Clue, where we did some recasting of one of our favorite all-time comedies, 1985's Clue. Mike, do you have any beer wisdom for us this evening?
Today, some beer trivia for you boys. A standard shaker. Wow.
You're welcome.
That was Colonel Mustard.
A standard shaker pint holds 16 ounces. A standard crowler holds 64 ounces. There's also a vessel called a crowler that basically is a very large can, usually 32 ounces, which many taprooms fill and sell at the bar for patrons to bring home.
I usually go for the crowlers.
Not the growlers?
No, I tend to I get a growler and it ends up going to waste.
Yeah.
Because it's like once you open it, you got to drink it. With
I
the
made
crowler.
my,
The crowler I could drink on my own, or if I want to share with you guys or something.
tough lesson learned. I bought 3 growlers. I used to get them at different breweries. I'm like, oh, I'll keep one in the car and I'll keep one at home, and and I just never use them to collect dust. There's nothing that I find I like that much.
Last growler I got is sitting on my desk with spare change in it. So anybody have any final thoughts on their drinks this evening? I mean, not much you can say about straight whiskey, right, Mike?
Yeah, well, it's the blended whiskey from Old Smoky, so I've got 2 other bottles sitting in the basement waiting for me to get to them.
Yeah, and then I did my old gin and ginger, and I used blue. What do you call the sapphire gin? That's usually my go-to.
I'll tell you, these aren't the worst. I could see them being a refreshing drink either on the beach or by the pool. It's never going to replace my beer or the alcohol. But if somebody were to say, "Well, we got White Claw," okay, well, then we got White Claw. We'll party like it's Zima,
Okay.
And I would say the surviving cast member is Mr. Plum, Professor Plum, has survived. Probably the better of them.
If I were at a party and they said,
Blackberry,
"Hey, we got some White
better of all.
If I was at a party and they're like, "Hey, we got some White Claw," I'd be like, "Great. Do you have any Mike's Hard Lemonade or black cherry or anything?"
Do you have any real wine coolers?
Anything real for us? Yeah. So thanks again for joining us for episode 92, Recasting Clue. We hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. Don't forget to go to linktree.com/films of fermentation for all of our social media and podcast links, or drop us a line at filmsoffermentation@gmail.com. Make sure you stop by the crossroads between pickled and fermented next week as we present to you episode 93. In honor of the Super Bowl next week, and just in case you're wondering out there, the 3 of us are from the Philadelphia area, so we're all rooting for the Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles!
In honor of
Tom Brady retired
again. For now.
It's February 2nd. Has Tom Brady seen his retirement?
Until the Las Vegas
6
Raiders.
more weeks of later.
Until the Las Vegas Raiders throw $300 million his way or something.
Right.
So in honor of the Super Bowl next week, we're doing a sports-related episode. Episode 93 is going to be our favorite fictional sports characters, favorite fictional athletes. So
Right.
each of us is going to pick a favorite fictional football player, baseball
Tom Brady.
player, hockey player, basketball player, and then our fifth pick is going to be a wild card. It could be from any of those four sports or any other sport that we want to choose from, but it will be all fictional characters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Cheers, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Go Birds.
Super Bowl
You
in
could have watched the second
2017.
half of the game, and you could have screwed it up.
Yeah, but here's
Yeah.
the thing. Kevin watched the Super Bowl in 2017 with us, and they won.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of inclined to say Kevin needs to watch the Super Bowl this year.
Yes. With
And
us.
then afterwards, you have to go out and save somebody in the street.
That's true. Somebody from getting ran over by a car.
I don't know if you can do that around here. I don't know how crazy they
I
get up
remember-
here.
You like pulled the guy out of the street, and the guy's like, "Yeah," and he's like hugging you and stuff. And I'm like, "Dude, you
Yeah.
just saved your life. You almost got run over by a car." And the guy's like, "I don't fucking care. We won the Super Bowl." That dude's life could have ended there, and all it would have had all meaning for him.
You definitely missed being down at Frankfurt Avenue on Sunday, didn't you?
Oh, I saw that picture, man, on Facebook, and I was like, "God damn, I'm so happy I live where I live now."
Screw that shit.
Whew, that was insane. We already planned our route home from your house that night, Mike. I was like, if they win the Super Bowl, we ain't going nowhere near 95.
No.
We are going right down
Right
the
over
turnpike, right into
Burlington.
Jersey. Screw that shit.